It is fair to say that in the 2000s we had a bit of a zombie craze going on. The ghastly undead showed up in a lot of movies, TV series, video games and even books. Any place or scenario you could think of and could put a zombie in, bam, zombies. You got your zombie epidemic with all of humanity on the brink of extinction. Of course, it's a classic scenario. Or a top secret laboratory full of the wretched things, and they break out and cause havoc. Sure thing. Hell, you can get creative and have zombies slowly turn human over the course of your movie, for some dramatic storytelling on how to cope with being alive again. Sure, why the hell not? Classical slow zombies, speedy harbingers of death, or huge fleshy monstrosities ever morphing into new gruesome guises. The sky was the limit. So, what did Japan do to add to this formula and keep things fresh? Yeah, this never gets old. Hello, hi, my name is Sora, and for October I'd like to make a video fitting of the spooky season. So, for this video we take a look at Madhouse's 2010 zombie classic, High School of the Dead. Can I call it a classic? Well, it is to me at least. And you might have already heard of it, as thanks to that scene you saw earlier, it is pretty well known, maybe even infamous perhaps. People say it is a great anime, and some might even call it a masterpiece. However, other people might say it is just masturbation material for horny teenagers. And I say that if you're one of those people, you're not very fun. And me? I love this show. It is great entertainment, even all these years later. But alright, let's take a look at it to see what the show is about then for those uninitiated. The show starts off with our protagonist Komuro Takashi sulking, as his childhood crush went for his best friend instead, calling himself the fourth most miserable student at their school. We're starting off with some good old teenage angst here. Meanwhile, his childhood friend Sai Takagi tells him to stop skipping classes and man up, and as she leaves, she gives him a front row seat to the zombie outbreak spreading to their school. We are not even 5 minutes in, and the show kicks off its premise right away, straight to the point. Plenty of stories would wait until the end to kick things off after introducing the cast members, but we don't have time for that here. We're getting straight into the action with this one. Resulting in him rushing back to his class to drag his childhood crush Ray, which was my dad, out of the classroom in order to save her, and his friend Hisashi joins them. The trio makes it to the roof in order to escape the chaos that not long after starts engulfing the school grounds, as everyone tries to run away and save their own lives. And while they all seem familiar with zombie movies and the situation they find themselves in, Hisashi ends up getting bitten, thinking everything will be fine. Which it obviously isn't. He conveniently forgot that part of the movies, resulting in Takashi needing to kill his own friend after he turns into a zombie, before the credits of the first episode roll. Meanwhile, Takagi runs into a classmate named Hirono in the hallway, as they both run off to safety to get some tools to defend themselves with. All the while, the school nurse Shizuka runs into a girl named Saiko, who both go in the staff room in order to get a car to escape. On the way there, all three parties meet up, and that is our group of characters for the rest of the story, so let's introduce them. Takashi is not a bad kid. He's just a bit salty that thanks to his ignorant attitude, his childhood crush Ray ended up dating his friend Hisashi instead. And this attitude keeps causing friction with her over the course of the show, not thanks to her constantly comparing the two of them, and he doesn't like that very much. He might have a bit of an attitude and tends to skip class often, but he will always come true for his friends. However, it worries him a little that he and the others adapted so quickly to the world falling apart, as he knows there is no going back to how things were before all this. And maybe he might even prefer this new world. Rei Miyamoto is the childhood friend in question, and daughter of a local police officer. She is quite headstrong and a skilled fighter with spears, capable of defending herself quite well. It is however a bit annoying that she keeps comparing Takashi to his now dead zombified friend. Look, I get it. He was a dense motherfucker and didn't pick up on your feelings. But you are the one that ran off with his best friend instead. You're not innocent here either. And in the first half of the anime she can be kinda annoying because of the attitude she has against Takashi, despite harboring feelings towards him. Saying he only killed her zombified friend because he was jealous of him. Oh come on now, it is a stupid argument and you know it. Thank God she mellows out a bit and drops most of this behavior in the second half of the show and becomes less insufferable. Also you best get used to seeing her butt, as she gets a lot and probably most of the panty shots in this show. Hers are white by the way. Saya Takagi might be the third wheel in this relationship, as she is Takashi's older childhood friend, but it never really gets told how she feels about him, so it depends on you how you want to read into the friendship. She is the daughter of a Japanese politician and likes to think of herself as a genius, and she might be true about that, as she is the most intelligent of the bunch and was the first one to find out that the zombies only react to sound. However, when it comes to combat, for some reason she is the one who will always get covered in blood, slime and viscera when fighting the zombies first. She really seems to be a gore magnet. She also gets very annoyed at people afraid of looking her in the eyes and using her given name, as people fear her family. However, she doesn't really have the best relation with her parents, so the trepidation annoys her. As she wants to be recognized for who she is, not for what her parents achieved. Saya, honey, trust me they are not looking into your eyes for entirely different reasons. Oh, and the panties are the classic anime staple of blue-white striped, just so you know. Kota Hirano goes roped into all of this thanks to Takagi coming across him and telling him to flee. Hirano might just be my favorite character of the group. He's a chubby kid that always got bullied, but he's a huge weapon fanatic. While he might act nervous and meek normally, the moment he holds a weapon a switch gets flipped, and he becomes a confident zombie killing machine that doesn't back down from a fight. He gets a lot of comedic moments, but despite that he's rarely the butt of a joke, and he gets along well with Takashi and the rest of the group, and acts as the group's gun expert. He might just have a little crush on Takagi, especially after she puts on a pair of glasses, and he does his best to protect her from harm. Who doesn't need protection, however, is Saiko Bushijima, as she is a highly skilled counter practitioner and probably the strongest of the group. You know when people warn you about that one crazy chick? Yeah, she is that crazy chick, though it might not show on the surface. As later on it gets revealed, she low-key gets off on holding the power and bashing people's skulls in. This gives him a bit of a complex that she doesn't consider herself a pure woman, but Takashi doesn't really care about that. While it is left up in the air who he likes more between her and Rei, there are some strong arguments to be made for both of them. Saiko was the character that people liked the most back in the day when the show was more relevant, and if there was anything that hasn't changed over the years, it is that guys like girls that would easily kill them. I kinda see the appeal in her, however, so I guess I'm not much better. Oh, and since I mentioned the other two, she's wearing a black thong, leaving little to the imagination. The last character in this cast of buxom babes is the school nurse Shizuka Marikawa, and this is where we run into some issues, specifically with how the anime portrays this character. For some reason, the people in charge of writing for the anime decided to significantly dumb down this character and amplify her airheadedness, as the only reason for existence sometimes is healing people, driving the car, or having her boobs bounce breastingly. In the manga, while not a rocket scientist, she actually possesses somewhat of an intellect and actually has meaningful conversations with the kids, instead of being a ditzy blonde airhead with massive knockers. Hell, she's even aware enough of a situation that she references this being like one of George Romero's horror movies. I do not know why they decided to do this, and it only really is an issue if you read the manga to compare, but still, it is a thing that it is for some reason I cannot fathom. Oh, she's all about the boobs, not really any panty flashing with her. And those are the main characters that we will be following on their trip through the zombie-infested city, in order to find their parents and escape to safety. They do pick up a little girl that needs to be saved and a dog along the way, but I feel those two constitute more as mascots than anything else. Okay, look, the plot isn't the most original if you have ever seen any sort of zombie movie or played any zombie game out there. Even in 2010 or 2006 for the manga, it was done to in-depth, but hey, don't change a winning recipe I guess. But when it comes to Japan, zombie media, and at least anime is a bit more uncommon as movies and TV shows were here back then. Hell, if you were to ask me for any other zombie-related shows around this time, only two would come to mind. One is a silly comedy, and the other one is a romance. But when it comes to a purely zombie outbreak survival scenario, it wasn't until last year's Zom 100 that we got something like it. albeit without a fan service. Ah yes, the fan service. The elephant in the room for some people out there, and the main reason they will condemn any anime in existence. Is there a lot of fan service? Yes, no doubt about it. Hell, it is even one of those weird cases where the source material is less fan servicey. Look, you're either going to like the fan service, or you don't. It is simple, each to their own. I for one don't mind some fan service. But as far as fan service goes, there is still far worse out there, believe me. And it is going to sound weird, or maybe I'm just desensitized to it after a decade of watching anime. It is not like the fan service in this show is front and center all the time either. And there really is only one instance in the show where one gets to see bare titties bounce around during a bath scene, so it is not like there's a lot of that either. After that, the titties get covered up and put away never to be seen again, but hey, it makes sense that during fighting skulls get flipped, it is what it is. But if you are going to complain about it and condemn it, this anime, heck, a lot of anime out there, won't be for you. Excuse me, I think I'm on a bit of a tangent. For a show named High School of the Dead, this show is held and will spend a lot of time in a high school. As after 3 episodes, the show takes place on the streets of the fictional city of Tokunosu, while the group tries to navigate the chaos broken out in the streets, in hopes to find their parents and reach the police station Rei's father is at. And Takashi gets split up from the group twice on the way from the high school to the Takagi estate, once with Rei and another time with Psycho. And it is at the estate that we get treated to another classic zombie media trope, where the big community of survivors starts to infight because they think they are being lied to by the government and they know better. There is also a C-plot with the teacher Shiro that they helped escape from the school, who went his own way with a bunch of other students because of disagreements, which results into him kinda creating a cult of his own, but his real objective might just be to bang the schoolgirls. Regardless, he's a sleazebag. Also, what the hell is this scene? Why does he slide in like that? However, after being rejected from entering the Takagi estate and causing zombies to flood the place, he leaves the picture and his fate is left up in the air. All of this coincides with the USA launching nukes on North Korea and China to protect their country from being vulnerable during the crisis, as not only Japan was hit by the zombie plague, but the entire world has since spiraled into chaos in the course of 3 days. Luckily, all the missiles got stopped before they could cause any damage, but it did end up causing an EMP burst in the clouds above Japan, frying all their electronics. But wait, Miner, you said C-plot. What about the B-plot? Well, while all of this goes down in the city, on an airport off the coast of Japan, we get introduced to the friend of Shizuka, Special Forces member Rika. She was assigned to protect the airport from a rumored terrorist attack before the outbreak happened, but is now cleaning up zombies instead, so that airplanes can escape, and we check in with her every now and then. There is more to this plotline, but the anime decided to deviate from the manga, omitting an entire chapter that focuses on Rika taking care of things at the airport for some reason. I guess that the animators didn't deem it important enough to animate in the grand scope of things. But then again, it is weird that the first half of the 4th episode is mostly a recap of everything that happened before it. So, what exactly was the thought process here? And since I am talking about changes from the manga, it mostly is a one-on-one adaptation from the source material. But for some reason they shuffle around some of the events of the story. Small things like Takashi not meeting Takagi on a school fire escape at the start of the story. And there being no tunnel that blocks Rei and Takashi's way off at the end of episode 3, and the subsequent events of episode 4 at the gas station take place in midday instead of at night. This alteration completely changes the timeline of events, as they reach Rika's safe house on the 2nd day in the anime, but in the manga it is on their first night after they escape to school, and they just meet up with the others randomly on their road, not saving them on a bridge. Most notably, however, in the anime the group splits up at the barrier just before reaching the Takagi estate, with Takashi and Psycho going their own way before finding their way back to the estate. However, in the manga, this happens after the events of the Takagi estate. Now I guess they probably did that to end the anime on a better point in the story, as after the split up in the manga, the group reunites at the shopping mall, which is where the anime decides to end on. And I guess they wanted to end on the last episode with the last stand at the estate, with everyone getting some action, instead of having half of the cast split up for the finale. I don't necessarily have any issues with this, but it is worth pointing out. And that is the point in the story the anime unfortunately ends on. Just over half of the available manga chapters adapted, and this is where the story turns sad. If it's because of Madhouse being Madhouse, or other forces that be, there never was more of the manga adapted. There was an OVA to be announced in 2011 that I initially looked forward to, but what we got was a 6-minute recap of the anime, and then 10 minutes of pure filler beach episode shenanigans reveling in fanservice. Now, I said earlier that the show is full of fanservice and I don't mind it. Hell, I enjoy the occasional fanservice ecchi anime. But the OVA is just fanservice for the sake of it, and it fell really flat when I finally got to watch it back in the day, as I was expecting more of the story, so it left me rather sour and annoyed. The OVA even ended on Alice saying, "We will return, please look forward to it," and it to be continued, which makes me wonder if there ever were plans to adapt more. And as it stood at that point in time, there was still plenty of the manga left to adapt, as ultimately before the manga stopped, there were 3 more volumes he could adapt, which is about the same amount of chapters as the anime already covers. So it would have been possible getting another 10 to 12 episodes out of it, if they planned everything accordingly. But as I said, the manga stopped, and that is where the sad part of this story comes in. After the great 2011 earthquake that hit Japan, the manga went into hiatus, and in 2017, the author Daisuke Sato unfortunately passed away. And his brother Shoji Saito, who was the artist for the manga, as out of respect, or other reasons, decided to not continue the series, and so it remains discontinued. I respect his brother's choice, but I'm also incredibly saddened that the story never found a conclusion, and we will never find out what lied ahead in the journey of these characters. Look, while I said earlier that the story might not be the most original on paper, I am still very sad that it will never be completed, as it feels we were getting close to an ending. It might just be a silly zombie survival story, but it is my silly zombie survival story, and I am saddened it will never reach a conclusion. So if you ever watch the anime, or end up giving it a look in the future, I do heavily recommend you to read the manga afterwards, either from the start or where the anime left off. The shopping mall story arc that happens after the anime's event is solid, and afterwards they reach a police station when Rei's father is stationed there, which is one of the main goals they had the entire time throughout the anime, and it is there that they find some answers they were looking for. However, it also gets shown that Shido somehow survived this crash outside the Takagi estate, and is at a school Takashi's mother works at, as the military is planning a civilian extraction from there. And they even end up finding Rei's mother alive and well in the last chapter. It will not be the perfect conclusion you might be looking for, as the story will forever remain in limbo, but it does give you some more time with the characters if you want that. And with all that, I think it is time for the verdict. I will heartily give this show a strong recommendation, and a seal of approval as is customary. If you like zombie stories in action, you will find some fun here, and if you love fanservice, you will also have a good time. But if you don't like the fanservice, well, that's on you. I don't think I can convince you to watch this show no matter what. It is a good action romp to turn your brain off to and enjoy while not asking too many questions, with animation from Studio Madhouse that still looks great as day. Say what you want about it, but at least they brought their passion and their A-game while working on this. They definitely added a lot of flair and style to the show, perhaps even over-delivering on what needed to be done. From fast-paced action, some fancy angles, and that scene, it certainly wasn't as over the top in the manga. It's supposed to be good old dumb fun, and the show delivers that masterfully. Look, I love this show, just give it a watch, it is a great time. The soundtrack is pretty solid as well, and every episode has its own ending theme that plays as the camera pans out on the board of posters of people that went missing in the chaos, and photos of the cast in their daily life. Sadly, the singer for all the endings, Maron Kurosaki, passed away last year. I'm starting to wonder if this anime project is perhaps cursed. The opening song, simply named Highschool of the Dead, by Kishida Kyoden and the Akabushi Rockets, is a classic, and after all those years, still a certified banger, and you will be listening to it on repeat for days to come after watching the show. Also, I can't help but giggle every time I see Takashi's face here in the opening. I mean, just look at it. This is the face of a guy who knows exactly which situation he is in, with 4 ladies with massive boobs around him at all times, and he loves every minute of it. He knows what's up, and that just makes me giggle. And I think that about does it for this somewhat Halloween themed video, and maybe give you something to watch fitting the season if you haven't seen it yet. I like making something fitting for the season when October rolls around, but you can be the judge if this series fits that criteria or not. I think it fits the bill at least. Though I'm not completely sure I can call this a horror series. Sure, it has zombies, but it's not like it is that scary either. It is, unless you hate fanservice, I guess. Then with all the panty and boob shots, it is going to be true horror for you, I suppose. I've seen this show a fair few times now, and it remains a great and fun watch all the way through. But, as I said, it is just very sad we will never see more of it. But, that is all from me today. My name is Sora, and thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.